Okay, we're recording now. So welcome everyone to our Empathy Cafe. The purpose of this cafe is to support Extinction Rebellion with empathic listening and have a place for people to express themselves and be heard, and also to build a culture of empathy. And you can, if anybody's watching this, you can find more information about the work that we're doing with empathy circles at empathyscircle.com. And the outline we have is we're going to go for 2 hours. And we're going to start with a very short participant introductions, go around, everyone introduce themselves. We'll have a breakout. I have a chat window here. Oh, empathyscircle.com, right. Thank you for that. Sharing that. We're going to have a short review of how the empathy circle works. And then I think if there's just 6 of us, we may stay in just one circle. If we get 1 more or 2 more, we would divide into 2 circles. And about 10 to 15 minutes before the end of the time, we'll stop and have sort of a debrief. And if we go into 2 circles, we'll come back again to debrief together. So with that, so we're just going to go through with introductions. Zofia, do you want to just lead that part?
Yeah, so now if you could please, and we all will do it, introduce yourself just briefly. We did it already, some of you did it already, but now we are recording, so please do it again. And so just your name and where are you from, and from which XR group are you in, or are you from, and yeah, whatever else you want to add as well. So who's gonna start?
I can start. I'm Edwin Rutch from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm in XR, the local San Francisco Bay XR, as well as the Empathy Circle work group, which is online. Yeah, that's kind of me.
Anybody? Lawrence?
Yep, sure. So my name is Lawrence. I'm originally from a town called Peterborough. I now live in Milton Keynes. I'm a member of XR Milton Keynes. And I live in England.
Okay, I can also go for it. I'm Zofia. I'm from Poland, from Warsaw, and I'm in the Warsaw XR group. And I'm also learning how to facilitate empathy circles.
My name is Karolina Kubiak. I'm also calling from Poland, Gdańsk, harbor city on the north of Poland. I am also a member of XR group and empathy circle team.
Thanks. Michaela?
So I'm Michaela, or Mika, and I'm British, but I live in central Switzerland. I'm part of XR Lucerne. Yeah, and this is my first empathy circle.
Thanks. And Bill, please.
Sure. I'm Bill Filler. I'm in Northern California, near Edwin. I'm a retired special education teacher. I'm with the Empathy Tent group, and I'm also with the either affinity or work group talking about XR and empathy circles.
Thank you. So I think we're done with this part, and now I'm giving the floor to Bill and Edwin, I guess.
Yeah, thanks. So I was going to give a little introduction of how the empathy circle works, and I was hearing from both Lawrence and Michaela that you were having trouble seeing the video, so I'll just give a little intro here. Let's see if this comes up. Is that everyone seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is just a very short how to take part in a basic empathy circle. Just going to zip right through this because you want to get into it as quickly as possible. So what is an empathy circle? You can see a couple empathy circles here, which is it's a structured dialogue process that supports meaningful and constructive dialogue in small groups. And the process increases mutual understanding between participants. It's really good for connecting and feeling heard and being seen and acknowledged. And it's based on mutual empathic listening, which some people also call active listening or deep listening or reflective listening. And a few points on why you might want to take part. And this is really some of the benefits of the practice. And I'm going to zip through these. The first one is it's easy. It's a fairly easy practice to learn. You know, it's just within 10 minutes you can pick up the essence of it. It's a really good way to develop and practice active listening skills. It's a chance for everyone to be seen and heard and understood to their satisfaction, which I think we all need that. And it's good for trust building and helps build teams, you know, for team support. If you can build trust and safety, it really helps for that. It's good for bridging personal, social, and political divides. One of the other projects we have is using these empathy circles for talking across the political divide to bring the political left and right together. And it helps resolve conflicts. So you can bring a conflict into the circle, and through the active listening, it's really quite effective for working out those conflicts. And especially it's good for offering emotional support and healing. So in XR, you know, there's a lot of tension with doing these different activities and so forth, and a lot of different emotions come up. And so it's pretty good for being heard around that and addressing, you know, really having that emotional support that comes from being heard. And it's also a good foundation for other community building processes, like in XR, there's citizens assemblies or, you know, other practices like that, that being able to have people be able to talk to each other using the empathy process, I think can really help as a foundation for a lot of these other practices. So a quick how-to. Usually we like to have 2 to 7 participants. Today we have 6, but ideally 4 is good, just so that everyone has more time to speak and be heard. There's 4 different roles. We have the speaker, which you see here, and then who's going to be doing the speaking. And then there's the active listener who will actively listen and reflect back to the speaker what they hear. There's silent, and the rest of the people are silent listeners, and there's going to be one facilitator. In this case, it's going to be Zofia. It's going to facilitate for us today. And the practice to begin with, the facilitator's role is pretty much just to keep everyone within the process. You know, they'll do the timekeeping, and they start by just inviting the first person to speak. And then, you know, someone will volunteer to be the first speaker, and then they select who it is that they would like to speak to. And actually, it's good to sometimes just if you haven't had experience with the process, to speak to the facilitator to begin with, since they have a little bit of experience. But you can select anyone that you would like and to be your listener. And then you speak about the topic at hand, which I'll announce in a few minutes. And you speak until you have expressed an idea or two, and then you want to pause, and you want to give the active listener a chance to recap what it is that they have to say, what you said, you know. And at that point, once you pause, the active listener then is going to recap what they heard the speaker say. They can reflect sort of the essence of it. They can summarize, or you can paraphrase, or even say some of the words back that you heard the speaker say. And even if you really want to just reflect back what it is you're hearing, you don't want to add your own judgments or analysis or questions. You want to kind of resist these, you know, saying these other things, that it's not just a reflection. And later on, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be able to talk about anything that you would like to. And so you're just doing your best to reflect back. And if you don't reflect back to the speaker's satisfaction, they can just say it again. Sometimes people feel a little bit anxious about this, and it's really, you don't need to, because it's really the speaker who's going to, it's their job to make sure that you understand what they say. So, and the next, then we go back to the speaker. As the speaker, you check, do you feel understood by what the listener said? Did they really understand what it is that you were saying? And if you don't feel like they understood it, you know, you can just say it again. And if you do feel like, yeah, they really got what it is that I was saying, you can, you know, continue speaking on the topic. And then again, you know, you're going to pause after you said an idea or two or so. And then at that point, the active listener is going to reflect again. And as a tip for the active listener, if the speaker is kind of going on and on, you know, for quite a while, and you think, oh, I'm not going to remember, you know, what it is that they said, I'm kind of losing the thread, you can ask for a pause, them say, oh, can you just pause for a second so I can reflect back what it is that you're saying. And then we go again to the cycle kind of goes back and forth like this for the time allotted, which are going to be 5 minutes. And then you keep speaking until you don't have anything else to say, or until you see the facilitator will hold up a 5-minute sign or whatever the time is. If they say your time is up. And at that point, you want to finish up in a sentence or two, and then get a final reflection on what you were saying. And then the roles change, and the person that was doing the listening then becomes the active the speaker, and then they select. Your first job when you become the speaker is to select who you want to have listen to you. So you select who you'd like to have be your active listener, and then you continue, you know, you speak about whatever's on your mind, the topic, or just anything that's alive for you. And the other people in the circle become the silent listeners. And we just continue like that for the time allotted. And we have today's topic is share your feelings, concerns, fears, grief, hope, etc. about Extinction Rebellion or whatever's on your mind. And we're going to have 5-minute turns for that. And that is it. Try to be as brief as possible here so we get more time to for everyone to take actual part. And I guess we're ready to just jump right in. And it's up to you, Zofia. You're our facilitator today. Over to you. And you're muted.
So is there anybody who would like to volunteer and be the first speaker, and I could reflect?
I'll start. So, yeah, you have the timekeeping too?
Yes, I'm doing
okay.
it.
Okay,
Yes.
great. You're doing it all. Okay, so I had we have the local Extinction Rebellion group here that we joined, and I've been just having some kind of like problems with them where, you know, I had a call last night, and when I talked to some of the people there, I just feel like they're not really listening well to you know, to me. I was just kind of I had this call, and I got kind of I was getting kind of upset about it last night. So I was kind of looking forward to having this empathy circle today, so I'd have a chance to talk about it.
So last night something happened that bothered you really. It's about the XR group, your local XR group, and you got a call, or you just talked with them, and something about what you heard from them bothered you really. So you're really looking forward to this meeting today to share.
Yeah, it's like it was a simple thing about the name of the group. Like we've been calling ourselves the XR Empathy Circle Work Group, and we've been working sort of at an international level. And then we're also starting to work with them. And then they were saying, you can't use work group because a work group has a certain meaning. You have to use the word affinity group. But it was like sort of the way it was done. It was kind of like sort of demanding. I felt like I didn't hear, like there was not a space to really be heard, I felt. And it got me really kind of nervous and upset and anxious. And yeah, so
yeah, so as I understood, you felt really anxious and upset about not even maybe the what were they talking about, but the way they talked. It was like a strong demand from them, something about actually a detail about the name, about how we call ourselves. Are we doing a working group or a affinity group? And
yeah.
that was the point.
Yeah, and I felt I was sort of being judged, you know, for it. Like, oh, you're just causing trouble. And I didn't really feel like there was space to be heard about what it is that we were doing. And so I sort of felt like I was on the spot. It was like, it started off, this is what I felt, that you're doing this thing, you shouldn't be doing it. You know, it's sort of like the finger pointing. And then I was like getting all sort of, kind of anxious about it. I was kind of surprised that I was so anxious because they were it felt like this demand that you change your name. And it's complicated. We've been doing this a while. We've been working online. And so, you think you just could kind of talk it out, but it was a real sort of a demand sort of feeling, around it, which kind of put me on edge.
Yeah, so the thing that really made you feel so anxious was the way they pointed their finger on you and made you feel guilty or something, like doing something not right, whereas you're actually doing a lot of effort to make it all online. It's all of these things really demand a lot of energy, and somehow it didn't match to how they were communicating with you. And
yeah, and it's like I worked with XR in the UK, and it's like being in heaven. It's like, oh, we're so grateful you're doing this work. It's so nice you're doing this. It's like it's just this whole different energy. It's just like I feel like embraced, warm. It's like this warm, loving embrace. In here, it was like, it was like, wow. It was like just this whole difference was like total shock.
So there was also some positive thing that you experienced because you confronted with some other XR group, and there was this difference how they were treating you, and there was a lot of positive energy flowing towards you, and so that was actually totally contrary to what you experienced in your local group.
Yeah, and then so in the local group, I kept saying, well, we have different opinions here, different ideas. How about we do an empathy circle together? So I kept saying this is the way. So I kept trying to promote, them taking part in one of these empathy circles to kind of work things through. And I think it would be good to use this practice because everyone gets heard. You kind of have a space where you get heard, and I feel sort of safe in a space like this. Even if there's argument and conflict, I still feel safe. Okay, I feel. Thank you.
Okay, so I will only reflect back what you said. Yeah, so so in the end, you proposed that you suggested that they join us in the empathy circle and to fix this problem or to deal with that in sort of on our terms, to be heard, to be fully heard, and maybe it will help. You believe, right?
Yes, I feel fully heard. Thank you.
So it's my turn right now. Yeah. Let me pause and count the time again. Yeah. All right. This whole facilitating, it also takes a lot of energy and attention. Okay. I need to. Yeah. So can Lawrence, could you please reflect what I'm saying? Yes. Are you unmuted? I cannot hear
Yep.
you.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. So yeah, I already began with saying that the whole facilitating today is a new thing, and it takes some energy. So actually, I'm not in a mood right now to like dive deep into my feelings and emotion, but I will try. Yeah, but it's not easy.
Okay, so what I got from that is very new to facilitating, and because it's quite a new thing, it takes a lot of energy, and you're struggling a little bit to go deep in that because of the energy it takes to concentrate and facilitate.
Yeah. And but actually, this week was also full of thoughts about XR, and I've been to one meeting on Monday, and actually I felt quite depressed afterwards. Not because of all these news that were repeated and stuff, but the way the people were communicating. The way they were referring to police, the way they were referring to, like, the way they were trying to shake us, like get us to action, like motivate us.
Okay, so you had a lot of thoughts this week, and you went to a meeting with your local XRs group this week, but the way that their approach or their energy in regards to how they wanted to mobilize people made you feel a little bit uneasy. But well, your words were a little bit. Was it depressed? Was that what you said? Or sad? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also had this fear that I saw that the other people didn't have this kind of problem. Like I was maybe the only one, or maybe the other people didn't show that they have any problem with the language that they were using. And I felt a bit alienated in this moment.
Okay, yeah. So you said that you had to fear because no one else noticeably was concerned about the language and the their approach, and you felt isolated because of that.
Yeah, so that was one thing, and then on the other day, I had a really tough situation, like on healthy basis. I was dehydrated. I don't know how it happened, but I just forgot to drink water, and it's so hot outside, and I had to call the ambulance, and I didn't go to hospital, but they came and they gave me some medicine. They told me to drink water. They just, they were telling me this basic thing that I should know myself, and so everything had to slow down. From the Tuesday on, I was just like in slow motion, trying to calm down and do everything in the right time, not to hurry, and yeah.
Okay, yep. So what I got from that is that you've been working really hard and you've forgotten to do a bit of self-care, especially drinking water in the hot heat, became ill, and you've come to realize that you need to slow down and make sure you take care of yourself.
Yeah. And yeah, I think right now I'm in a moment in which I really need to prioritize my head, I guess. Not even my schedule, because I'm okay with my schedule, but somehow in my head there should be some, I don't know, hierarchy of goals, I guess. And like, yeah, water in the first place for sure. And then the rest, maybe. So like maybe health as first one, and then all the others, I guess.
Okay, so what I got from that is that you've got lots of thoughts going on, and you've had some reflection that you feel you need to focus those and prioritize those, especially with taking care of yourself, and your schedule's not necessarily hectic, but just lots of thoughts going on, and you want to settle them down.
Thank you. I feel fully heard. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's your turn now. You can choose any.
Oh, I choose
to
someone.
reflect.
Okay, I'll be the facilitator.
The speaker, the active speaker.
I'm the speaker, so I'm speaking. Okay.
Yes.
Bill,
I'm listening. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so to begin, was about a week or so ago, I felt quite a bit of grief in relation to all the news coming out about the intentional fires in Brazil, as well as other places, but primarily sort of what I saw on social media. Yeah, I felt a real deep sadness. Actually, I still feel that now. I did cry quite a bit. Just a couple of days of just being very emotional on that one. In regards to being involved in XR, and even though I've not done any frontline activism, but I'm on social media a lot, do social media for the local group. There's a lot of just being bombarded by things, and I've spent like the last few months being quite stressed as well. So that was last week, but I am feeling better this week.
Okay. So you are feeling stressed and depressed about the fires in the Amazon and the various other environmental challenges and, depredations that are going on around the world. And as far as you don't have any frontline experience, but then you're very involved with XR, and there's been really, really frenetic in the last few months. And then it seems that last week also kind of distilled that. It was sort of like last week I felt was a sort of representation for you of the last few months. And I feel you're kind of taking stock and trying to figure out how you're going to allocate your energy.
Yeah, I think that definitely is a good point, because I've been interested in the regenerative culture aspect of XR, but it hasn't really, even though it's there, it's not really been very obvious at the forefront. And I went to a regional coordinator workshop maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago in Birmingham, and that really put things into perspective. There was a lot more talk about regenerative culture, and then I stumbled onto this Empathy Cafe page, so I really wanted to just look into that, because I've seen people that I really care about involved in our local group all burn out, and also the stress that I've had as well, and I just want to try and see if I can learn to facilitate and prevent that happening.
Okay. So you're looking at the people. You were at first disappointed that the idea of regenerative culture, which is really important to you, was not really talked about or seemed to be important in the first XR interactions that you had. But then you went to a local group in Birmingham where you felt much better about that. They talked a lot more about the regenerative culture. And that's and then through searching in that direction, you found the Empathy Cafe, and you're very concerned about the people in your area who are getting burned out. And so you want to be able to help support them and have an ongoing movement without the burnout.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess my hopes are just to, like this now, participate in this, watch the content and learn more. I've contacted a local cafe, that's a community cafe, and hopefully they agree to hosting some in-person ones. There's also something kind of not exactly similar, but there's something called climate cafes where people just come and talk about how they feel about, much like we are now. So yeah, maybe like a combination of those two things, and hopefully can facilitate those for people who are a bit not very knowledgeable of these topics, not necessarily in a position where they become activists, but they want to talk to people in a very chilled out environment, and if they go somewhere with that, or if they feel that they've expressed themselves, then that's good. Okay.
So again, in following up, you've contacted a local cafe to talk about having personal empathy circles like this, and also there's a climate cafe where people get together in less stressful situations and discuss things. And it's kind of an entree. It's not necessarily for people who've been very, very active, but people who are concerned and want to find out more, and you're interested in facilitating these two types of cafes.
Yep, perfect. I think I'll stop early. I feel very listened to. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay. Mika, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I've been hearing about all of the environmental disasters. In our country, we have a government, run by essentially a gangster, and he's trying to keep power by just tweaking everything that that I hold dear, just for spite. I'll stop there.
Yeah, you're finding the situation stressful because your government is not really aligned with the way you feel about things, and as a result, they're doing things you don't like, and particularly tweeting things that are spiteful. I think I missed a few words out of what you said. The connection
Sure.
went funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just crazy. You feel like, I feel like my government is a 12-year-old bully on the schoolyard, and that's what we're dealing with every day. I'll stop there.
So you feel like your government is very childish and in a very unkind sort of way, and that's hard to deal with.
Mm-hmm. And so in looking at this, I look at it from a teacher's point of view. And I've been reading up more on XR. I have not joined the XR Bay Area group because I don't want to be cannon fodder. And I don't, if you want to get my cooperation, let's talk. Let's have a dialogue. And when I went to the Berkeley group, I didn't feel that there was space for that. I'll stop there.
So you haven't joined the your local XR group because you feel like it's more focused on action and on perhaps being sacrificed, and you'd rather there was a constructive dialogue to build something. Right,
and not necessarily. I don't worry about action. I've been doing plenty of action, but it's more of a sort of hierarchical. I feel that there isn't the regenerative culture when people are telling you what to do and immediately. I mean, affinity group or work group, the Amazon is burning. Let's see. What's more important? And so that's my issue with them. I'll stop there for a second.
So I'm hearing you say that you feel they're getting their priorities messed up, and that being regenerative is more important than sweating the small stuff, and dealing with the big issues like the Amazon being on fire and other big issues should really be the primary focus, and it shouldn't be all kind of top down. Right.
And I've been thinking a lot about what we're going to have to do as a race. I love the people, the XR people, by the way, I've met online. I have to say with, Edwin, I feel the same way. And it brings hope to my heart, that people like you guys exist. And so looking at it as a teacher, we have lesson plans. And what we try to do is to establish the goal and then work towards the goal. In my work, I dealt with very, very dicey, physically dangerous situations. And so I'd have to ask people to risk their physical health. I'm a nice guy, but I'm not that nice. And so it wasn't about me. I had to present, this is to the student's best interest. And I had to make a valid case that that was in the student's best interest in the moment. And that's the way I looked at it, and that works. I'll stop there.
So because you're a teacher who works with difficult situations that can also be dangerous, and you have quite a goal-focused approach to setting priorities and making decisions. And sometimes that means that something has to be dangerous because it's in the best interest of reaching the goal, which is, in your case, to look after the student. And you'd like to see more of that sort of attitude within XR, even though the people there are wonderful and you're encouraged by them.
Yes, that's true. I'm blushing. Except, okay. So what I found is that we're going to have to be, having dialogues and also very focused. And that's the problem. And I'll stop there. Thank you. I've been feeling very hurt.
Tyler?
It's my turn.
Yes, it's your turn to be a speaker. Yeah, and please, if you could choose somebody who will reflect what you're saying.
Okay, so Carolina, is that okay?
Yes, I'm listening.
So I've been involved with XR for about maybe 6-8 months since the beginning of the year, and I was part of setting up the local group, and that's been very stressful. And I've heard other people mention burnout, and yeah, that's definitely an issue for us as well. Which is one of the reasons I'm here, to also learn more about regenerative culture and about empathy circles and try and prevent us all from, sorry.
No. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
And try to prevent us all from burning out.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is saying that you are involved in XR from the beginning of this year, so now it's about 80 months, and you were actually setting local group up, and during those months you realize that the problem of burnout and other issue, according to very deep, strong involvement in activity. So you are concerned a lot about regenerative culture and things like we do here, empathy circles, because you believe that it might be somehow helpful.
Exactly. But I have another difficulty where I am, because I'm not local. So I'm a foreigner coming in and doing things in a local culture, and I don't speak the local language fluently. I speak French, but I'm in the German-speaking part of Switzerland, and I speak some German, but not really enough. And that's kind of an extra cause of stress, that I can't do all the things I would like to, because I just don't have the words for it that are needed for this sort of thing.
So you face another obstacle, that is the fact that you are foreigner in Switzerland, and even you speak not only English but also French and a little bit German, as I understand. Still, you are in a canton area where French is not very popular, rather German, but the dialect they use and the language don't match well, so you experience a lot of problems with communicating. And as I understand, it's very delicate, subtle thing you are interested in setting up, so you face problems with setting up anything and communicating well. Yeah.
That's right. And many of us in my group are actually foreign. So at the moment, we communicate fine with each other, but as more Swiss people hopefully come in, it will become, I know there will be a tension between those of us who were here first, and obviously we want the Swiss people to kind of have more input, and because they know the culture. And yeah, there are so many things going on in my head from this side and that side. It's kind of hard to focus on what I can really do and what really needs doing. Yeah, we're all running around like headless chickens trying to do everything.
Well, another thing is that you are a member of a local group that are mostly foreigners like you, and you all obviously you want to make it more to grow and to let in people from Switzerland. You hope this group will grow, and there will be more people from Switzerland, but that will also kind of create attention. And for you experience the problem that you are not really deep in local culture, so you don't understand many things, but you and your friends, you would like to make this group more Swiss, more Swiss, but it also creates some tensions and sort of competition or something like that. Definitely tension between you and locals.
Thank you. I feel heard.
Thank you. Okay, so I have to choose someone. Okay, let's choose Edwin. So we close the circle.
I'm listening.
First of all, I want to say to Sophia that she's very nervous today about her hosting and facilitating a group, and actually I was the same, nervous and distracted by facilitating when I was doing that first time. It was crazy. I didn't want even speak as a speaker because I was so distracted. But but it's good to say that, and it makes it easier when we express ourselves. You did it, so yeah, that was great.
So you're just naming that Sophia is facilitating and feeling a bit anxious about it, and saying that you had the same experience when you were first facilitating. You felt really anxious and didn't even want to talk because of it. So, but it sounds like you're saying it's a good thing to do and kind of wanting to reassure her.
Yeah. Another thing, I was listening to you, Edwin, to Sophia, to Lawrence, to Bill, and every one of you were, and actually, yeah, Mika also. Everyone in this group was naming some problems we face in XR movement, and some of them are truly serious obstacles I see, and I see a common pattern in all of them.
So you're saying that we're all sort of bringing up some problems with or issues with XR, and you see that as there's a common pattern there with that you're seeing.
Yeah, and it will be what I want to say. It will be a huge generalization and kind of simplifying, which is always take some details and but make something more clear. But anyway, I want to do that. I was talking in one of our meeting, our past meetings about it, that there is a phenomenon we face, we experience, and we are actually in this phenomenon, within this phenomenon. We are inside of this phenomenon, a process that is happening to us. I stopped there because it's difficult to...
Yeah, so you're wanting to sort of look at this, what's happening. There's a phenomenon that we're within, and you're wanting to sort of explore it and share about it.
So first thing, we want to avoid the climate and ecological catastrophe. We want to stop it, and we think, most of us think that we need to change our civilization we live in, the culture. I like the term economic culture. Many paradigms we live within. We have to change that. We have to create something new, something different. And regenerative culture, or culture of empathy, or empathy circle, is a part of it. So this is one thing. I stopped.
Okay, so you're seeing that there's a change that needs to happen, to address the climate change, and part of that is this regenerative culture, sort of this cultural shift that's needed.
Yeah.
That empathy circles is one, piece of that shift that needs to happen.
Yeah, this cultural shift is a tool for stopping a climate catastrophe. And the problem is that we are a part of this culture. We have habits, we have reflexes, we have our sets of values, we have our needs. Some of them are fake needs that are produced by big corporations, advertisement, but anyway, we feel we need something that we don't really need, and so on and so on. There is a lot of things that are deeply in our mind. I see it. Thank you. I'm wrapping up. There's a lot of things that are in us, and when we want to change culture, we actually bring all those customs, habits, reflexes into this process. So it's very difficult to create something new. So to change this culture, we have to change ourselves. We need to work on ourselves, start from us, and then to change the world. That's the problem.
So you're saying, what I'm hearing is that you need a cultural change, but we're part of the culture, and that we bring ourselves into that cultural change. So we need to kind of shift our own, in who we are, our own culture personally, to make sort of that cultural change, and just kind of bring attention to that.
Yeah, and all the things you named during our first round, well, actually symptoms of the old story, symptoms of the old culture that interfere in our struggle to change the world. Okay.
So some of the dynamics that you're hearing in my story were part of like this old culture that we're trying to change.
One correction, I hear that in all the stories.
Yeah, so it's in all the stories. Is sort of this intercultural change needed.
Thank you. Okay, I feel heard.
I'll speak to Lawrence then. For me. Yeah, so that cultural shift, I think that the empathy that we're doing here is like we need to take time to have these dialogues and have a sort of a space for that, is part of the change, that needs to happen, because all the different things I'm seeing, if we just had a lot of time and space to work them through, you know, we could kind of work them through, like this issue I had with the local group. But it does take time, and it takes some, you know, some processes, like I think the empathy circle, to do that.
Okay, yeah, so you see that a lot of these common problems that we're speaking about, and in particular the situation that you had, you feel that if there was time and space to have something like empathy circles, then we can work through those.
Yeah, and it's like I'm very cautious in terms of what I'm doing, and with the local XR group, is I don't want to, like I was hearing it from Zofia and others too, about it sounds like it's more of an us versus them, you know, it's us against the police, us against this horrible system. So it sets up this us and them, you know, there's enemies over there, and you know, it just sets up a whole sort of anti-empathy, you know, sort of more demeaning, authoritarian, us versus them. And I think that's sort of part of the problem itself, is that disconnection that happens, and all the, you know, the negative, you know, painful stuff that comes out of that. So, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is there's concern about the disconnect and the us versus them that that it appears that some individuals or some groups seem to have. And yeah, so I've lost track of thought there, but there's concern over.
Yeah, and I think the part is, for me, is how to navigate that, right? It's like how to maintain integrity for myself and not get, you know, swept up in that, or support some of those other things, but maintain a sense of integrity, for empathy, for seeing everyone's humanity. Like, you know, I see the police's humanity, I see, you know, the 1%'s humanity. I see we need to see everyone's humanity. We might have an argument, you know, but we need to see their humanity, and then be willing to engage in a dialogue. And I'm fine with using nonviolent tactics if people don't want to talk, to bring them to the table. But it is, for me, it's kind of starts and ends with having dialogue. And
okay, so what I was hearing is that you want to be able to navigate through those situations, and my interpretation, it sounds like you very much are adopting the principles of the movement, no blaming or shaming, and you see everyone as human beings, and you treat them equally, like the love and respect that you want to receive as well, and just, yeah, like you're saying, navigate through that.
yeah, and it is a challenge to navigate it, you know, how to maintain that in all these different environments. There's all these different forces coming, and for me, just being here, like I start feeling calmer, like, oh, okay, slowing down, being heard. I know I'm going to be heard. I'm glad to listen to everyone else. I'm glad everyone's being heard. So this space is like really important to me, just for sort of the energy that I'd like to see created at a wider scale. So, but it's difficult. It's difficult just being out in the world in with all these competing pulls and tugs, and there's a lot of tension, and yeah, it's difficult to navigate that.
Okay, yeah. So it's having a space like this where you can be listened and heard. It gives you that energy of feeling calmer, the kind of energy that you want to take out into the world and out into the movement and the groups that you're involved with. But there's still that little bit of a challenge in the outside world, of all these different things coming from different directions, and I guess how to solve that, and
Yeah.
what you have here into those scenarios.
Yeah, exactly. And then something Bill and I are trying to set up is in our local town here in Berkeley, to set up, we have this empathy tent. We want to set that up in a public square and just offer empathic listening and empathy circles like this for the community, to talk about the same, you know, question we have here. So to take this from online to the in-person space, kind of like what you're wanting to do too, Lawrence.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'm hearing there's that desire, because I've seen the pictures of your tent as well, that you want to take it out into the communities, and just give people the opportunity to come and experience this themselves as well.
I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Oh, I'm back to me again, is it? Right, okay. So I'm now picking someone and I'm talking again. Right, okay. Carolina?
Okay, I'm listening.
Hello, hello. Okay, so haven't really thought too much about what else I was going to say. I suppose I feel like this is quite a good experience. And I don't know if, like, because they said 2 hours, I'm thinking to myself, like, could I find something to talk about for two hours? But yeah, the skill of active listening is very good. We do have someone in our own well-being group who within our a local group and this well-being working group, someone does co-listening. So I think it's very much the same sort of thing, but more like a one-to-one thing. So that's a really good thing that we've got going, and hope that complements this work as well.
Let me reflect that, okay?
Sorry, yeah.
Can I? Okay. So you referring to what was what Edwin was saying, and you're thinking about your local group, and well, first of all, you were kind of intimidated by 2 hours of our talk, and you were thinking, oh gosh, what you will say if you have anything to say to speak about for so long. But now you referring to what Edwin was saying, and you were saying about local working group that organize also some sort of speaking. It's rather one-to-one person, but versus, well, different structure of dialogue and active listening. Yeah, is it correct?
Yep, that's correct. So I think so the topics were hopes and fears, isn't it? So my hopes at this moment in time, that I'm putting myself forward for various trainings involved in support within XR. So there's the UK office in London. This weekend they've got some different trainings on arrestee support, preparation, things like that. So they're training to be able to train other people. Don't know if I'll be able to retain all that information or be very good at training other people. But I feel like if I'm able to go, it's important that our local group has at least the notes or something, because there is a lot of gaps. Being a decentralized movement is great, but equally, if you're not in a metropolitan city with a pre-existing ecological environmental groups that have kind of come on board to XR and taken their skills, then it's very much like you're lost in the woods, which has been the case for at least since November anyway. But now, since going to that thing in Birmingham and going to go to them thing, it's becoming a bit more clear.
Okay, let me reflect that. So right now you participating in a lot of training that is designed particularly to support other XR members. And you actually last week were attending to some training for supporting arrestees, and you think that it's easier when you live in big city where there is a lot of different organizations and institutions involved in science or other different areas, but having knowledge, NGOs having knowledge on climate crisis, activities, how to organize movement and that sort of things. And those people just simply leak into XR movement, and they with their knowledge, with their skills. But when you live in a small town or area that is not that urbanized, there is no such people, and you feel like a little bit lost. You use the expression you feel in the woods. So it's kind of difficult because there is no such natural kind of process of people with knowledge and skills linking into the movement and strengthening this movement. It's more
Yes,
difficult.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll pass it on now.
Okay. Well, that was tough because you speaking very fast and I'm not very good in language.
Oh, really?
It's not my first language, so it was difficult, but I hope I managed.
You did well. You did well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so maybe Sophia. Would you reflect me? You are muted. Okay, so Edwin was talking about the whole problem of trying to overrun empathy circle as a working group and taking into on the umbrella of local XR movement, XR activist or local group. And it's a kind of problem with hierarchy, with different vision of what movement should be. You were talking about some problems with your local group, the language people use, and the language that actually reflects the attitude people have, which is in contrary to the, so to speak, DNA of our movement. So a set of values and principles of the movement. Bill was saying about the very same situations, and there is a lot of concern in all what you were saying, a lot of concern about regenerative culture, and it's also mine concern. I feel like regenerative culture is something mostly ignored, abandoned. There is no time for it. First we have to act, then if we have time we do something with that. And it's not a good thing, because actually we should start from regenerative culture. I stopped there. I said a lot.
So I heard that you were picking up all these pieces together, and you see a common topic, common thread in what I said, what Edwin said, what Bill said. And there is this, there are problems, like relational problems, actually. So we all have the same goal and we agreed on that, but we didn't agree actually how we're gonna communicate within our society or our XR groups. And this, it's, so there's a problem with hierarchy, there's a problem with the language we use to communicate outside and within our groups. You also said about the regenerative culture, that actually we leave it far behind, like something that we will do in future if we manage to survive, or someday in future. And whereas actually your feeling is probably that it should be higher in the hierarchy, like on the first place, or it should be somehow parallel.
Well, yeah. I think that regenerative culture, well, people start to think about regenerative culture when they experience burnout. But until then, they think like it's not important. They live and act kind of intuitively, or by instinct. directed by their instinct. They don't manage, they don't govern themselves as an activist. And regenerative culture is the tool to govern ourselves as a person and as a community. We try to establish in our local groups or wherever we are involved. So we need kind of different thinking. We can't do that intuitively or, using instinct, without thinking about it, how we behave.
Mm-hmm. So, as far as I understood, your idea of regenerative culture is that it's a very conscious effort of making change within ourselves as well. It's something, it's a tool to govern ourselves, to like go through this change ourselves first, and then govern it to others, like help others to change, or the society to change. So this is not something that we should do instinctively or just let ourselves lead by intuitions, because we are not learned to do those things. So how can we know how to do these things like just intuitively? Is that correct?
Yes, you're naming very well what I mean. I just didn't, this time was talking about changing us, ourselves first, and then the culture. But yes, what you're naming is actually what I think. And I decided to focus. Thank you. I just want to finish my thought. I decided to focus on regenerative culture and self-organizing system, SOS, those two things, because they are basis, they are foundation of everything we want to do. And when people rethink, start thinking, start consciously acting and behaving toward to ourselves within the movement and outside the movement, they can do that when the SOS and the regenerative culture are actually working well. If they are built, they are strong, we don't need to tell each other what to do. We will do what is needed. We just first need to create this strong foundation of our movement. So I decided to focus on it. And it's difficult because people are focused on actions.
Okay, so let me reflect that because you made some correction that it's not about like changing first ourselves, like each of us first. Like,
I'm sorry, it is about, but I was not telling that, but it is about it. Yeah.
Okay, but your main point, I think, was that first there should be a basis, some kind of like a common ground of the culture. There should be a culture, a regenerative culture already there, and then we can feel like we can act intuitively. And but we miss this ground.
Well,
or we borrow it from like the old school or the old model.
Yes, we definitely borrowed that from the old paradigm, but I don't think we can build that first and then act. We have to do that kind of parallelly. It's impossible to split those two phases of building movement. It just has to happen simultaneously. That's the problem, because people are mostly focused on actions where we need to put more attention to good horizontal structure and regenerative culture as a foundation of the movement.
Okay. So these two things should go together, parallel. It's like we can lead one thing or another for some later or for some other time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I feel heard. I'm sorry, I just want to ask Edwin to let Michaela in back if she will try, okay?
Oh,
because
right.
we lost her and she might have problems with coming back.
She said that she had to put her children to bed, that they weren't going to bed, so she was going to drop out because of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and she also said, I will come again next week if I can. Yeah. Okay, so we still have some time, right? Like half an hour or something. Yeah. Okay. So I will continue. Yeah, about this common thread, this like being not satisfied with our local groups.
You have to choose who you're speaking to.
Oh, right. Thanks. So Bill, could you reflect?
Yep.
Great. So yeah, I'm still thinking about like trying to continue what Carolina was saying about a common thread in our in what we were speaking about. But because I think really there is definitely something in there. But in the same time, I'm afraid that this circle will become something like a circle of like people unsatisfied with their local XR group.
So you are thinking about, you're taking off what Carolina said, and that you were you know, and you found value in it, but you're afraid that this will become a gripe group about your local XR franchise or whatever.
Yeah, because I'm actually not quite sure if I'm right in my case. If I was right feeling alienated, or maybe not like right feeling, because it's not my decision to feel like that, but like what is there for me to do about it? Maybe I didn't do enough actually to point out that there might be some other way to communicate with people, and nobody did. Yes, so I'm just thinking there's more to do maybe for me in this case to try to like sneak into the like, I don't know, somehow give them like, throw them a rope of what I was thinking, and maybe they will catch it somehow. I don't know.
So you were concerned about, you know, just basically people just complaining about, you know, various aspects of XR, which would then not be the culture of regeneration that you're talking about. And then you went into reflecting on your own actions and were wondering what else you could do in order to encourage dialogues. And that, so you're, I'm sorry, it says my connection is unstable. And so you're really looking how to further and reach out to these other people in the group to participate more in a mutual dialogue.
Yeah. It's also, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts like how to bring myself and other people like me that are more sensitive maybe to some kind of expression, this kind of a bit more aggressive, a bit more dominating leadership, type of leadership. I'm super sensitive to that, and maybe it's not like, yeah, what Carolina said could be understood like that actually it's counter what we are doing here is like counter our values. But maybe I'm oversensitive to that. I don't know, because I know that I am truly sensitive. I was in the university and stuff, and I just hate this kind of guys that are like ruling the world, and I don't know. Yeah, so this are my, like, just I'm thinking aloud, which part of that is my very personal one, and which could be like kind of objective thing that we should really change to make the society better.
So you're trying to address this, and you're taking, and there seem to be what we call inner demons and outer demons. And you're wondering whether the inner demons are affecting your perception and skewing it, and whether you have to deal some more with them in your own, changing your own attitudes. So you're struggling with these types of things. Yet there also are very bad circumstances, very bad outcomes from authoritarian types of personalities and regimes that really do need to be changed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking about. And yeah, well, there is I'm also, yeah, I have half a minute still, and maybe I can, yeah, I'll try to tell about something a bit else. I'm having this meeting with Empathy Circle Group live next week on Thursday. This would be my first empathy meeting on like live, and I'm feeling like I'm thinking a lot of thoughts. I'm having a lot of thoughts about, because I will be kind of like, it's facilitator is not about leadership, but it's kind of, giving a tone, setting a tone for something. There's a bit bigger responsibility. And so these things make me also think about me as a person that proposed something to others, start something. Like what kind of person, what type of facilitator I want to become, right? And can I do it really soft? Would it work? Yeah, this is my big question.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So you're thinking about, I'm sorry, is there more?
No, thanks, yeah.
Okay. So you're thinking about this upcoming empathy circle that will be the first time that you will facilitate, and you're dealing with this issue of, well, what's a facilitator, and how authoritarian and how permissive, and you're kind of struggling with, could you facilitate in a very soft way, and would that work?
Thank you. I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll talk to Edwin.
Listening.
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to feel that whenever I see, like I'm a teacher, and my students were generally not in good shape. They were in all sorts of crises.
Bill, you're kind of breaking up.
Didn't understand.
Bill, can you turn your video off? Maybe if you turn your video off, that might give you more. Maybe it's a bandwidth issue. So I was hearing that you're a teacher and you were dealing with students who have all kinds of issues, crises, I think.
Right, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage when you're in that situation and don't know where you're going or don't feel you've achieved your goal yet to take a step forward. I'll stop there.
Yeah, so when you're in a difficult situation like that for someone, it takes a lot of courage to, face that and move forward in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're wanting to encourage.
I would like to recognize Zophia's. Yeah, that may or may not come out as planned. But specifically, and I certainly wouldn't exclude anyone, but I want to recognize Zofia because I know that I see that. I see it. That's the first step towards really being great. It's when you take that first tentative step and you confront your fears and you do it anyway. There's nothing better in the world.
So you're just wanting to speak to Zofia, saying that there's nothing better than to just confront your fears and take those steps into that difficult space. So you're sort of wanting to just let her know that that's really important.
Yeah, and as we go forward, we have a long way to go. We do have a long way to go, and I think we should design our activities and stuff with that long game involved. I'll stop there.
Yeah, so the work that we're doing with the empathy and so forth is really a long-term project. We have to think of it in those terms. It's not just a quick thing that's going to happen. So keep in mind that this is long-term and sort of plan for the long term.
Right. And I have a lot more to say about the whole thing, but it would take a lot more than 5 minutes. So my head is being kind of like full of all these ideas, and but it seems like this is a good place for me to stop.
Okay, so you have a lot of ideas, a lot of things you like to share, but you think this is a good time to stop now, so you feel heard.
Yes, thank you, Edwin. I feel fully heard.
Okay, great. In just 1 second. Okay, I'll speak to Zofia, I guess. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I think Lawrence for a while wasn't
okay, I can speak to
reflecting and
Lawrence
speaking.
then.
I'm sorry for changing,
I haven't been tracking I got a little distracted. Somebody came up here. So I guess I will. Sorry. I just speak to Lawrence. Thanks for that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. It was, what was I going to talk about? It was about this, what Zofia was saying about sort of complaining culture. I don't want to get into, I understand that mindset. I don't want to get into a complaining sort of a culture, like everything's bad. But sometimes you just need to express your pain, to be heard about it. And then you can sort of move on until you kind of, your pain around these issues gets kind of heard. I find then you can sort of move on to maybe more constructive direction.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm hearing is you don't want to get sucked into the complaining kind of culture or blame culture, but you recognize there is a need for a bit of venting and release in a productive and constructive way. Yeah, that's a distilled of what you said.
Yeah, exactly. Good to distill it, get it short and sweet. I appreciate that. So it is that sometimes it's called purging, right? That you just have all these pent up feelings and they're just going around in my head, or I see it and going around in other people's head. You just need to get them out there, have them be heard. And kind of once they get heard, they kind of just dissipate. It's just they need to be heard, they dissipate, and then it creates the space for more constructive, thought. So just wanting to bring that aspect up. I see that from myself. So.
Yeah. So what I hear from there is that you recognise there is a need to release. In your choice of words, to purge these things and just to have them be heard. But then once that's done, that gives space.
Yeah, and then in terms of the constructive, steps, I think that peer counseling that you're talking about, the empathy circle has that roots in that peer counseling that came where you can have two people doing empathic listening or a whole group. It's sort of all the same process. So. It all fits within the empathic listening practice. So it fits, totally with what you were talking about. So that person seems like a good person to ally with, to maybe hold some empathy cafes with.
Yeah. Sorry, I went a little bit blank while I was listening to you. I was not actively listening properly. But yeah, do you recognise the roots of the Empathy Cafe, as you were saying, from the co-listening or peer counselling?
Hmm.
And you suggesting that's a good person to contact. I have actually messaged them earlier.
Hmm. You're already working in that route.
Yeah. Just on our base camp, I did that. But yeah, you just saying you just recognise the similarities and the roots of what you're doing.
Yeah, and this is it's been good just to get heard by everyone here. About those. I was pretty upset last night, but I think our next step is to hold these cafes to just create space for other people to be heard. And I want to thank Zofia for taking that on, because I had the same stress with facilitating. It's like you feel a sense of responsibility, which kind of inhibits just free expression, because you're always kind of thinking, how's everyone doing? Is everyone happy? Are things moving? So it's a lot of like extra stress and responsibility, and it's really great to have somebody else take it on. So I really enjoy the freedom to not have that responsibility.
Okay, yeah. So what I was hearing there is you really enjoyed being able to listen to everyone and be listened to. You're really appreciative of Sevilla to facilitate, because facilitating does take up quite a bit of headspace, and it's a bit stressful. You're looking forward to taking these off online and into the physical world in person. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the essence of it. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I know this is going to be for 2 hours, but I'm feeling quite hungry, and I didn't expect it. So if I have my last turn, would I be okay to depart after that, or would that be okay? No, Edwin, or anyone facilitating, or Sophia?
I think it's fine. Yeah, sure. If you're feeling hungry, like it's I think primary need, right? So I don't
Okay,
know about
perfect.
the others. Maybe they have some other opinion, but
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I was
Yeah. So
I'm sorry to interrupt. How about making a little feedback after your turn?
sorry.
How about doing a little bit feedback after your turn, because we would like to hear from you.
Yep. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. Yes, I will.
After this turn, okay?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you. No, yeah, I appreciate. It wasn't something I thought of. So thank you very much. Don't have to be sorry. Okay, cool. I'll pick Sophia to talk to. So yeah, I'm feeling quite relieved that this work is being done. It feels really good to understand that we're all going through very much similar kind of situations. I feel that there is definitely an evolution happening within the movement, and even though we don't all physically in the same places, very much like what I saw when I went to Birmingham with the coordinator workshops, even though we're all in different places around the world or in the same country, in parallels, having very similar experiences, perhaps. Well, it's just very organic, so it's hard to explain really why that is. But it does, something like this feels very, very reassuring that we're all on the journey together.
so actually, you are already giving us a bit of feedback, because you said that you're happy that to have this circle done and to participate, because you see that all of us have similar problems, similar issues, and also that there is some process, some evolution of the movement going on. You can see that, and even though we are in very different locations, there is some commonalities among us, between us, and also some kind of process going on. So you're going towards something.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. And Yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend and learning some more things. I hope I can bring to my local group to benefit them. I'm a bit apprehensive. I didn't participate in the April International Rebellion. I haven't booked any time off work because I don't have any time to book off work. Um, and I did feel like I sort of had a bit of guilt for not being there. But also at the same time, and this is probably the reason why I'm focusing on the well-being stuff in the regen, is that as someone who has a mixed ethnic background, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm going to be arrested myself, because that wouldn't go down too well. Not as bad as the States, but still, you don't want to really. So yeah, there's kind of like a little bit anxiety maybe over that.
Sorry.
But I think I can help out in lots of other ways. So yeah. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm not sure I fully understood what you are talking about. But so there's one thing that you're looking forward to meeting your group, and so you have some new energy maybe, or some freshness or some curiosity. There is another thing that you haven't participated in some event. I didn't understand which one, but there was some important event that you haven't participated in, and so there was some kind of guilty feeling or some kind of like feeling of missing something out, and then I lost you. Sorry.
That's okay. I'll reiterate. So I was saying, so there was the Spring Rebellion, April International Rebellion. So the first one, I didn't participate. I don't have any time to book off work. And as you reiterated back to me, there was the guilt and stuff like that. I then went on to say there is an element of anxiety in regards to, even though I want to contribute to rebellion, that because I am someone of color, there is that issue of with the police, obviously. And I said, it's not as bad as living in America, but still, you wouldn't necessarily want to have a record if you are someone of color in England anyway. So I was saying there's a bit of, even though I really want to help out, and I hope I can with all this regenerative stuff, that could be how I could be of service. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you're saying that it's not as bad as in US, but in UK it's also not good to have any record as a arrestee or as a person involved in civic disobedience, being as a person of color. So it's there might be some anxiety in you about being like caught or being in the record. So there is this. On the other hand, you'd like to be helpful, and you also offered some help to the empathic circle. Is that right?
Yep. That's that. You've got the gist of it. Yes. Sorry, I have to speak perfectly, but thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that was about 5 minutes. Is there anything you'd like to add now?
Yeah. So feedback-wise, I think it worked quite good. I mean, I personally kind of lost a little bit of track because it was like there was the active listener and the silent listener, but I guess because everyone's a silent listener unless you're the one that's doing the active listening. Yeah, I mean, it's quite good. I don't know, like 2 hours just feels quite long. I mean, even now at like an hour and a half, I kind of feel like even if I weren't hungry, I kind of feel maxed out. So I don't know if they're always 2 hours long, or can you do them shorter, or more of a question, I guess, on that one.
I can just quickly answer that you can fill the time that you have allotted. A lot of times, like the first hour, people getting familiar, and then into the second hour, it starts going deeper sometimes. So it can be, but you can just fill the time allotted.
Well, to be honest, first time I hear that it's too much time. Usually, it's we feel like it's not enough time to express ourselves. But if I may ask you something, Lawrence, I would like to stay in touch with you, because you mentioned something very important, that you are person of color, and I actually want to ask or even make a separate meeting, empathic circle about it, why there is no many people of color in XR movement.
Oh yeah, okay, that is a
And
very.
why there is no XR movement in Africa, for example.
I believe there is. I believe.
Only in South Africa, only in Republic of South Africa.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm gonna put my email into the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Being that I'm mixed race and I've grown up in a very white place, I can't actually speak on the behalf of anyone else of color. I can say that, you know, there's social economic reasons why people of different ethnicities wouldn't necessarily join in, but the international solidarity movement of XR is multicultural. So there is that thread of people, but essentially, environmental topics has always been, and I'm involved in other movements that are before XR. There's always been, you know, the white middle class, and that's always the way it's been. But XR in England, anyway, is doing XR communities, and they're going out to communities and engaging with communities of special characteristics. So now there's XR Jews, XR Muslims, XR doctors, all that kind of thing. So, you know, the stuff is happening. But I'll send you my email anyway.
Okay.
So were you felt complete with the debrief? Anything else just for debrief? I wasn't quite clear. Were you going to go eat now, or was that the idea?
I was feeling, yeah. I mean, like,
Okay.
I realize now we're only 15 minutes away, but I just yeah, just being a little bit hungry and tired. But to be honest, I think 2 hours could be doable if I was properly focused. But yeah, I think that's everything. It's been good. I'm glad I joined in on it. I'm going to tune in again on other ones as much as I can. And I've been trying to encourage my local group, and I've shared it saying, like, you know, because I realize there's that everyone's burnt out, or there's the grief and stuff. So even though we do have the co-listening happening, which is kind of ad hoc, I still will share it to my local group and other groups nearby, because I think it's something very worthwhile.
Okay.
I just wanted to say one thing, for Lawrence. As far as the time goes, and the time, nobody's going to come to your home and and find you or whatever. So you can, the time is up to you. But also, I do want to note, and it may not be the perfect thing to do in every time, but you start to go deeper. A lot of therapists going. So what happens is that you go to this round and you're talking about the content, and then there seems to be another area where then people go deeper. And so what happens is you do that, and then you feel this resistance, and you kind of work through it, and then you find yourself in another place. Now, I think that you need to have the right people and things like that. It's not something to be forced. But I do want to let you know that by going deeper and kind of pushing through those, it's a different type of experience. It's not like more information. It's a different type of experience. People share on a deeper level, and then that creates something. So just to let you know that exists somewhere out there.
Yeah. Do you ever find that, like, you're lost for what to say?
We didn't want to go into the dialogue part, since we want to stay within. We just made a sort of special exception just to get your debrief, because you were going to go. We don't want to go in. So it's actually, if we want to continue, it'd be Zophia's turn to.
Right.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
So are we going to continue?
Yeah, we have like another, probably we can go another round, one or two more. I think we have time.
Okay. Yeah, so it's my turn. Sorry, my head is empty actually.
Choose who you want to speak to first, Steph.
Okay. But I'm also thinking about giving my voice to somebody else. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can select someone, say my head is empty. They will reflect your head is empty, and you say I feel fully heard, and it's their turn. That's one way to pass it on.
All right. So I'm picking Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you could reflect what I said.
Well, you feel kind of overwhelmed and you feel like your mind is empty, you have nothing to say, so you want to pass your turn to another person, which is me.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bill, would you reflect me?
Be happy to.
Okay. So, yeah. I was talking about the phenomenon. I feel like I'm not expressing myself or idea I want to share with you the right way. Somehow I can't express them. Well, referring to what Edwin was saying, affinity group is the group that is kind of under umbrella of local XR group. Working group is something that serves to many other groups. That's how I perceive it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I see it. That's why I believe empathy circle group is working group, not affinity group. Affinity group is more like more like local or for particular action or campaign organized and doing things on the street. We are not doing just thing on the street or in person. We kind of we're trying to serve different purposes inside the movement. So I don't see us as an affinity group. I am a member of sort of affinity group here, and it's completely different thing from what I'm doing here in empathy circle. I stopped there.
Okay. So you're struggling to basically try to organize your thoughts and express them, and you really haven't felt that you've been able to do that yet. And so then you went to the idea of the what Edmund was talking about, the difference between an affinity group or a working group, and you saw that an affinity group, as you defined it and experienced it, is more of under the umbrella of a local XR group for an action, and a work group is more of an affiliated group that's working on a specific action, for lack of a better word. And so you're kind of working with those definitions in your mind.
Yeah, and what Zofia was saying about the attitude, I don't think. Well, I know her doubts about herself. Is it my problem or is it an objective? Transcendent, so to speak, problem. I know I have the same feelings when I'm thinking about many things. Is it me or is it a real problem? And I think you, Zofia, was talking, you were talking about a real problem. The obsession of political police, the obsession of being on the civilians, the obsession, all those kind of obsessions of plotting and a special measure that has to be taken to survive. It's kind of syndrome of underground movement that has to survive. It's kind of I don't know the word in English. In Polish, we call it syndrome oblężonej twierdzy, what will be in English probably a syndrome of belligerent forties or something, or belligerent castle.
Belligerent?
Yeah.
Belligerent means combative.
I mean under siege.
Okay.
Fortress under siege. People behave like they are in a fortress under siege, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, besieged fortress. Got it. Okay.
This is, yeah.
Okay. So you were reflecting what Sophia said about whether, in dealing with these problems of authoritarianism within and without the group, is it real? I mean, are they real outside forces, or am I being oversensitive? And your feeling is that no, those are real outside forces, and that the social dynamic that occurs in the movement and among the people is like being in a besieged fortress.
Yeah, yeah. And it's actually very dangerous for the movement, because it creates, thank you, Sophia, it creates atmosphere that the climate in the within the movement, the climate that make impossible creating regenerative culture, that makes impossible to creating the culture shift.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you, Bill, is say about authoritarian tendencies in organizations. It's the same. It make this cultural shift and the civilization change impossible. So yeah, I'm worried about our movement.
So you're worried about the movement because you see the basically human habit of creating a hierarchy and stuff, and especially it makes it difficult because of the us versus them, the besieged, and from a standpoint where people feel like that, they feel besieged or attacked, you can't create the culture of regenerative culture. That it's not, the people are under stress, they're not open to that. And so you're worried about it, and you feel it's important, and you're looking to strengthen it, but you don't know how.
I know how. I believe I know how. It's just no time to say that, but I see some instruments to change that. And actually it's non-violent action, non-violent movement, non-violence inside me.
Mm-hmm.
I could talk about it for hours, so let's stop. Yeah.
Okay, so you do know what to do. You corrected me.
Well, I think I know.
You have many skills and techniques.
Well, I don't know. Actually, I have some ideas. Okay, don't put me in this.
You have some poorly formed, amorphous ideas. How's that?
Okay, I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to stop there, Edwin?
Yeah, I think we're ready to. I'll stop the recording. Thank you, Zofia, for facilitating this part. It's good to get that experience. Yay!
Thank you for your support. Really, it was really sweet of you, all of you. That you expressed this. Thank you. It was so much easier for me because of that. Thanks.
Good.
Great. It's great to see it. Great to see you just jump into it. So I'm excited about it. So I'll stop the recording for this.